episode 37. So stay tuned and listen. And please, I would encourage you to share, rate us, give us some good review, to help us get more quality guests like Camerin Allgood, who is a movement artist. Stay tuned and enjoy. So Camerin, now let me ask you, dear. Day in, day out, right? What do you do as a movement artist or as a dancer to see progress?
I guess I have to mull over what progress means.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not sure I know what the answer to that is. I think that we all move all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we participate in movement in ways that we don't even always recognize that we are dancing or, participate in movement beyond just the movement we need to get us somewhere. As part of my personal practice, I am engaged in a online community called the Iteration Project.
Mm-hmm.
My friend started it a couple years ago, a year ago, and I found out about it. Sort of didn't know it was hers, and then discovered it was one of my friends from childhood that I used to do gymnastics with,
Mm-hmm.
who has also since become a dancer.
Mm-hmm.
But she sends out prompts roughly once a week. It's not quite always once a week, and we respond to them. And so I often post dance videos or videos in relation to that. So it keeps me focused on the creative process.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the word progress is challenging for me because it feels like that's headed on a linear, in a linear direction,
Mm-hmm.
where I feel like creative process is really cyclical. We're always living it and keep going. And that what I created today hopefully is more informed and has more experience behind it than what I created 10 years ago, but that it's not, and so in that way, I guess it's progressing, but that it's all sort of circling back. There are things that I learned 10 years ago that I need to relearn, and right, there are things part of another process that I could reincorporate, and so I guess I think of it more cyclically.
Okay.
I, as a physical artist, I try to take class when I can, and I try to engage in some professional development over the summer when I have more time.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, taking class is not I don't get to do it as much as I would like, because I'm teaching a lot of times when class is being given, and then when I'm not teaching, I need to be at home and be a mom. But sort of this idea of recognizing how movement exists in our life all the time, and I have the privilege of being in a studio and teaching a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But then also dancing with my kids, seeing the freedom that they move with is really inspiring and continues to help me grow and develop my ideas about what movement is and who gets to participate in dance. Both my personal children, I have a 2-year-old and a 3.5-year-old boy, who are constantly moving and dancing more often than they even know they're dancing. But certainly if songs come on,
Mm-hmm.
they are going to start jamming out.
Wow.
Which is awesome. But watching how they, so young, organize their bodies, and they're not afraid to fall because the floor is so close, and they just do it all the time because they're still learning how to.
The floor is closed.
There's not as far to go to get there.
As an adult.
Right? Yeah. And then they also how they organize their bodies, how they get up off the floor, how they move around on the floor. They're so much more connected to the floor space, which is a part when I teach. The technique I teach is called safety release technique, and it's a lot of floor work. So that it's so inspiring. So I think maybe not progress, but just part of the artistic creative process is just to be aware of how art is in our life all the time, and seeing those moments, seeing those things that aren't meant to be aesthetic experiences but are, and finding those and allowing them to influence and inspire. And my students do that all the time. They ask questions that lead me down a whole new road of inquiry, something that I didn't even know I was interested in, and then all of a sudden it's wait, oh, yeah, why do we do this way? I don't know. Like, let's solve this problem together.
Let's find out.
My new friend Davian, who's asking these fabulous questions about how to consume dance without sight, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So.
that you're bringing that back.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just like staying open to the people around you. And also, I mean, I really believe in this idea that art shouldn't be something that is done only in art spaces, right? Like, it should be a part of our lives. And so how can it be a part of my life in ways like finding these aesthetic things that influence and inspire me, but also like, how do we create spaces where other people can engage in art and creative process without having to seek it out? Like, how can we just like hit them in the face with it?
All right. So to summarize what you're saying, you said progress is sort of a linear thing, but you would put it in a way that the art you do day in, day out, you feel it's a can't pronounce
Circle.
cyclical. A cyclical thing for you. So it's like something you learned 10 years ago, you still bring it back, or you improve upon it, you make sure you're making steps, you're making moves, you are impacting day in, day out. So that's how you feel you are achieving something.
Right.
I would say.
So like, I guess I don't feel like there's an end goal.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's nothing I'm striving to that's going to mean like I made it, or that I finished, or I'm done, right? That it's I had a teacher who used to say that like there's this movement we do every day in class, side hooked arm leg swings, and she said if you ever get to a place where you can do it right, then you should stop dancing. Because, right, like the whole point is the exploration. The whole point is to continue digging, to continue exploring for yourself and exploring for the art form, like continue developing and growing. And so, right, so like there's not an end point. It just keeps going in this cycle or spiral, or I don't know.
Wow. It never ends. So yeah. let me ask you, dear. Okay. There is this Newton's law, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm going to paraphrase it.
Good, because I don't know it off the top of my head.
So it says, in order for you to go up, you have to let certain things down. Mm. So what did you have to leave behind for you to see the continuous movement of the cycle? Instead of saying progress, I'm going to use your word, the continuous movement of the cycle.
So I have trouble letting things go, which is why I'm so busy all the time, because I'm trying to do it all the time, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't at this moment. I mean, I think if you asked me this in another moment in time, I would have lots of things to say that like I sacrificed and let go of. And I mean, I think I sacrificed like the idea of having a secure income and like regular job because, but at the same time, I couldn't live that way.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't go do the same thing every day. Like I can't imagine that. You know, I mean, it would be nice for there to be more money involved. And
not even a year? Not even for a year?
No. I have never, I have never done, I guess in high school, we went to the same classes every day. But that's, as close as I've ever had to that experience. I mean, I've had jobs. I worked at Starbucks. Mm-hmm. I've waited tables. But, right? But those aren't the schedule where you go from 9 to 5 every day.
Hold on. Which location?
The Starbucks?
Yeah.
The Independence location. It's on the corner of Tryon and Trade in the big Independence building.
Huh. Really? Mm-hmm. How long was this?
I worked there for 3 years, from 2009 to 2011.
No, that's way. No, I wasn't in Charlotte. No, I wasn't even in the U.S. My bad.
Yeah. And then actually before that, I worked at one up near North Lake Mall, and then when I moved to D.C., I worked at the one right off the big mall in D.C. Mm-hmm. It was insane. It was so busy.
Wow.
But I only worked there for a couple of months. And then when I came back, I mean, this is great. They gave me insurance. I needed health insurance, so.
Yeah. Let me ask you, talking about job, okay, I wouldn't go off track. So tell us, you said you had to let go of the idea of having, a secure income or a steady paycheck.
And I also think I had to
else?
let go of the idea of like knowing what's next. And just like have to embrace like things as they come, and then decide, is this something I'm incorporating into what I'm doing? Am I letting go of one thing to take on something new? How am I navigating this new possibility in my life? Instead of like having like, okay, success will be when I do this and when this happens. Like, this is where I'm headed. And I love everything I'm doing right now. And so I feel really great about, like, I love being a mom. I love being a wife. I love being the artistic director of Boom. I love creating new work. I love teaching. And I have right now the ability to do all of those things. You were talking earlier before we got on air about having to pick one project. And I see the value in that. It is not the choice I made. I want to do all the projects. And so I can't do all of them, right? Like, there are definitely some that I have to give up on. I don't create as much work, like as much dance pieces as I did before I had kids. But I'm still creating work. Yeah. Right? So it's just like finding the ways to incorporate the things that are important into, and just because I'm not doing it right now, like, okay, so this is not the time for this, but when will be the time for this? I'm not letting it go. I'm just putting it on hold or putting it aside until sort of the stars realign to make that fit in. Does that make sense? Fit in.
Yeah, it makes sense. So to clarify what I was saying behind the scene, just to clarify it more, your experience in the dance industry and your knowledge about what you're doing could be spread on, I would say, 2 projects at the same time, because you have the knowledge and you have the maybe connections. You have the connections and you have the knowledge. So it's easier for you to, quote unquote, move in the direction you want. We can be going in 2 directions with 2 different projects, at the same time. But starting and you don't have the knowledge, and you don't have the experience, and you don't have the connection, you have little resources, and you want to do like 3 things at the same time, you are lying to yourself in a way. You're lying to yourself in a way. And there could have been a better way to go about it. Just grind, get some money, and let someone do whatever I wanted to do, pay them for them to do it.
Right.
And I'll just make sure, okay, things are going well. With that, I could have been able to learn how to work with people and then let them do whatever I wanted, because they are more knowledgeable.
But you wanted to learn the whole thing.
The whole thing.
Yeah.
Because I was impatient in a way.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I feel you. So the difference of having a base of knowledge and then using it in a bunch of different ways versus developing a new base of knowledge.
Yeah.
Right.
So just to clarify, if you have the knowledge and you have the resources and you have the time, and it's an ecosystem and each part needs to be done, do it.
Yeah.
But if it is one whole industry, another whole industry, right. You're lying to yourself. Yeah. So
it is all interconnected.
Yeah,
certainly.
They're all interconnected with what you do. So, and you see, quote unquote, you see the cycle is moving.
Right.
Yeah. So you're good. You're good. But if you can drop one and work on one, then good. If you know at each steps, that's good.
We also, I think we're driven some about I've given up this idea of being rich. Well, I'm not sure that was ever something I was terribly concerned about, but of having a really stable income. I am driven in some ways by the need to contribute to my family. So I can't let go of the things that make money before I make the other things make money. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And just to even talk more about what you're saying, what you're doing gives value. And people sometimes give money for value. So regardless, as time goes on, or even if you say you're not going to charge, someone will see value and want to give you money in return. So
I like that. You keep speaking that into the universe. Because I think as an American society, we have not really understood the value of art and the value of creative exploration. And my work doesn't exist in a vacuum. I want it to be in collaboration with community. I want it to be for people to engage with, right? Not all art needs to be that way. I am open to the fact that there's this huge landscape in which art should exist and develop and grow. But like that's what culture is. And I think we don't monetarily value that as a society in the way that it should be valued. Like there's no I think we need to like that's what helps us understand our world. And I don't think we all recognize that that's what that does, and that that's how we engage together and in abstract thinking and in productive like collaboration. It creates space where all kinds of people can come together when we don't always know how to create that space. I mean, Boom is this artistic endeavor, right? And I've never been involved in anything in Charlotte that had so many different kinds of people in one space. But that's what the art has. Art has the power to do that, right? To bring all of these disparate entities together and give us space to deal with and think about and like grow in the world that we're living in. And other societies and other communities have given that value and have placed value on that. And I don't think that certainly there are individuals in Charlotte, there are pockets of the U.S. where that is really valued, but I don't think that we figured out how to really value that here in Charlotte. Like there's so much money here. There's all these banks, there's these huge corporations, and there are a couple big institutions of art that are being well funded, and that's great. Like there's space for those. They need to exist. But there's also like a huge amount of art happening in Charlotte at this like sort of grassroots level. These small dance companies, small or visual artists that are creating like incredible work. These theater companies, these comedy, spoken word, like there's so much happening. There's so much growing here. But the money that exists in Charlotte isn't matriculating to these individuals and to these communities. I think that's an issue, not just in the art world, but like the like upward mobility. Like we got some, Charlotte got named like the worst city for upward mobility in the country or something, right? Like,
wow.
We haven't figured out how to like take the things that happen in Uptown and make that part of our greater community.
You hit on something that made me stay in Charlotte. And that's why I said this podcast is part of something bigger, which I can do now. Yeah. Which doesn't mean I'm doing multiple things at the same time. So, yeah, the city needs a lot. It needs to find a way to match the Uptown feeling and the maneuvering around Uptown. Not in terms of maneuvering, but in terms of what goes on. We have to find a way to match that with the creative scene, which is being pushed aside gradually, so that all people of Charlotte will have a different perception about the creative scene in Charlotte. Because trust me, if you see a car going by at night, two people sitting in, you go to bars, you go to this, people are spending money to have fun, to be entertained. And if it's all geared towards specific things like drinking and few live shows here and there, someone coming to Charlotte, the creative scene here is going to starve. Right. They'll have to leave and make it, then come back. Then we'll be like, right. But they weren't treasured here.
Exactly.
Some of them.
Well, and I think there is some value in art here, right? But I think people think that it has to come from New York in order to be valuable. Or you need to go to New York and make it and come back, and then we'll recognize you. Instead of recognizing that there's like a hotbed of creative energy happening here. And that if we would put some energy into it and stop sort of making fun of it, that it could really grow and become something. And that you don't have to, I mean, we should go through the things that come from New York. Like I'm going to see Hamilton on the 3rd, and I'm really excited about it. But that shouldn't be the only way we're participating in art. And it shouldn't, and I think it's also the only thing people know about. You know, people know about what's coming to the Blumenthal, what outside artists are coming there, what's coming from, what Broadway shows are going to be on stage there. But I don't think they know what's going on in the rest of Charlotte. And then there is even this perception, right? Like you were saying, you have to go somewhere else and make it and come back. Well, but people can do that because what's happening here is so good. What's being built, what's being created is so good that they go other places and get recognized for that goodness. Whereas we can't recognize it here in our own community. I mean, I've literally had people tell me that I must not be that good because I'm here. If I was really good, I'd be somewhere else. Well, it's like, are you kidding? Like, and I mean, I'm not trying to tout my own horn. I'm not the best dancer, choreographer, movement artist that ever existed. Like, I have things I'm learning and growing too, but there's space for that to happen here. And there's a community of artists sharing work and challenging each other. And that if we continue to grow that and continue to push each other to be better, and then the community got behind it and pushed us to be better and pushed us, and supported what we're doing, then we would just keep, it could be awesome. It could be so amazing.
Flourish.
Yeah.
It will flourish. And I feel we need to get it in front of a lot of people. And as I was saying behind the scene, and maybe some people need to raise their standards when it comes to putting something out there.
Right.
Yes. And also, you were talking about the boom and doing something together. There is a lot of value in dance and creatives, choreography and all those stuff. Because when you watch movies, right? If a scene requires a movement, they have someone who will be there to help. Right. And without that person assistance, the movie is not going to have the message it wants to send. So there is a lot of value, just that it has to be connected with other stuff to build a cathedral. Yeah.
We all have to work. Yeah, we all have to work together.
And it's good that you're doing what you've been doing, the boom and all the stuff you got going on is really good. It's going to help the scene.
When I think by coming together, we can help to amplify our own voice, right? Like we can help to, if we work together, we can help to show Charlotte that there is something happening here. As one small community choreographer theater company working alone, we can't have as big of an impact. But if we come together and do things, then we can have an impact.
Yeah.
And people can see what's happening. And I think dance specifically has gotten really even more undervalued than theater or visual art, because people think they don't understand it. But I think that comes from a time when dance was pulled out of the public sphere. It's something that is done in a big theater by very professionally trained ballet dancers. And that's what we think dance performance is. And it could be so many more things. It is so many more things. It has historically and cross-culturally been so much more integrally a part of cultural life. And we've sort of removed that. And I think there's some challenges with our heading toward this technology-based thing of how disconnected we become from our bodies by sitting in front of a computer all the time, or having our head on our phone all the time. And I do this too. I spend a lot of time in both of those spaces. So how do we continue to remind people that this body is a thing that is valuable, and not only a means of getting from place to place and interacting with the world and working out and looking good, but it is a space of expression. Because we all have things that we can't express with our voices, that we can't say. And if we can figure out how to engage in our bodies, we can express things that we don't know how, or we can't express in another way.
So the body is a space for expression.
In addition to all the other things that it does, right?
That is, wow. Wow, Camerin. So, hold on. If you're listening, this is Creativity is an Idea podcast, a source of creativity for creative people. And today's guest is Camerin Watson, and she is a movement artist. I believe before you get to this point, you hear me saying this, you're already listening to the beginning, so I don't need to tell you what she does. And we are talking about art and how people need to come together to do stuff so that their voice will be more amplified and their doings will be seen by a lot of people. So, Camerin, I want to ask you there. We'll be gossiping, but before we do, right? Yeah, we're going to say a lot of stuff. Before we do, give anybody out there who is trying to get into the industry, the dance and the choreography or teaching, give us like 3 to 4 tips you think would help them.
Become part of the community. I mean, I think that's how you find out about things. That's how you meet other dancers. That's how you become involved in other people's work. That's how you find dancers to be involved in your work. I think taking class needs to be part of the culture. And I think that's a great place to build community. The Loose Sleeve Showcase is this fabulous twice-a-year showcase that Selena Mabel Stamp puts on. And anybody who's creating work can submit, and everybody gets in. So it's a great space to see what other dancers are doing, but also to try something new. If you've never choreographed something and put it on stage before, it's a great space to try that out. And then she collaborates with Boom, so some of the dancers, the pieces that happen at Loose Sleeves will be on our outdoor stage at Boom. And it's just a great way for the dance community to come together. I think show up and see what else is happening. Be inspired by what Charlotte artists are doing, and then engage with them.
1, network.
Take class,
network, so that you know what is going on. And 2, show up and be inspired. Was that the second one? Or
show up and be inspired, but also that, like, I think we have this really valuable space where you can just try something. Like, you don't have to have ever choreographed anything before. You could make up a dance piece and be on stage at Loose Sleeves. Because if you can walk, you can dance. In fact, I would even say, if you can move, you can dance.
Well.
You don't even need to be able to walk.
She's putting some ideas in my head. And what about the third one?
Continue. I mean, sort of goes with those. Like, continue to be inspired by continuing to grow as an artist. Take class and be involved in other people's rehearsal processes. Keep moving in different and exciting ways.
All right. So to summarize what she said, first, network, connect with people so that you get to know what is going on. If you don't know, how can you do what you don't know?
Right.
And how can you realize you know what you're doing if you don't know?
Right.
So you have to connect with people so that you know what is going on in your space, so that you will be motivated to be inspired, which is the second one, to be inspired to keep doing what you're doing. And the third one, keep growing as an artist. Educate yourself, try something new,
be involved in creative process.
Be involved in the creative process. We're about to gossip.
Okay.
But before we do,
I'm a little nervous.
No. Don't be nervous. Tell us what you got going on now. If anybody is listening to this, maybe in 2022 or 2019 or tomorrow or now when we drop this next week, what do you got going on that they can trace back to you?
Well, I hope that in 2020 I'll still be doing this, but I teach a all levels, adult dance class at Open Door Studios from 8 to 9. So if you want to do all those things that we just talked about, it's a great starting spot. But it's a great community. The people that come, like, we've really built a community, and we're happy to have new members of our community. And you don't have to be able to dance when you walk in the door. It's all levels. Like, there will be professional dancers in there and people that are brand new to dance. And it's a great space for collaboration. And so I do that. And I am starting this adaptive dance program at Open Door. It's for teenagers of all abilities. And I am creating this new piece called Red, a period piece. Not the full stop. I know that's a working title. I don't know what. I'm interested in collaborating with artists, and there's a lot of, I don't know, things I guess they're not concrete enough to talk about yet, but we'll see where they go and develop, and next time I'm here, maybe we can talk about those things, those projects. And then boom, I mean, we're working on the 4th. It'll be April 26th, 27th, and 28th, 2019.
So tell us, what is Boom?
So it's based on, so it started as this idea that a bunch of artists came together that were creating new and original work here in Charlotte, and we created a festival, we could amplify our voices and sort of start showing Charlotte that this is happening here, that good work is being created here. So it started out with the basis of a Fringe, Fringe, Fringe Festival, which was started in Edinburgh, Scotland. Performance Art Festival didn't let the new edgy performance groups that were trying new things into the festival. So they showed up and took over the fringes of the city, took advantage of the audiences that were in town for the Performing Arts Festival, and then like performed in coffee shops and bars and warehouses. And then that sort of has matriculated all over the globe.
And I remember it was in the 40s.
Yeah.
I was there.
You were there, yeah. You were in that first Fringe, Edinburgh Fringe. Well, it's become this huge festival. It takes place a month every year in Edinburgh. But then it's also, I mean, there's one in Asheville that's been going on for more than 10 years. There's one in Greensboro that's like on year 16 or something. And there's one in Atlanta, just did their 6th year. And Charlotte needed some space for people who are doing non-traditional original work. So this isn't artists that are doing a published play and making it their own. These are artists that are like creating their own play or building a dance piece off their own ideas and inspiration, or really broadly working cross-disciplinarily. Dancers that work with visual artists, dancers that work with theater artists, spoken word artists that work with visual artists, like music, whatever. Because there's all these interesting things happening here, and we just wanted Charlotte to know. So that's how it started. Based on a Fringe festival, there's $10 performances in fringy venues in Plaza Midwood. So Open Door Studios is one of our venues this year. Snug Harbor. Petra's has been one of our venues. They are already booked this year, so we will be searching for a new venue. But right, like these aren't traditional theater spaces. These are spaces we're creating into theater spaces. Then we also, it's sort of like exploded, sorry, beyond what we initially anticipated, because when we started getting artists involved, everybody wanted to be involved. So we have this outdoor stage that like family friendly, a little more palpable art happens on, and it's really incredible. And that's all weekend. And then we started adding these installations. So art that's like happening all over the neighborhood. Like there was a sound installation on the sidewalk in front of Snug Harbor last year. There was dance artists that created site-specific original dance work in front of Pizza Peel. I mean, there's just like, it's just it's an explosion of art.
A lot goes on, which makes you admire what is going on.
Well, and when a bunch of artists come together, it's so inspiring that people want to get involved, and we want them to be involved, and we want to find spaces for as many artists to be part of it as possible. And also, I was talking about earlier, like we want art to be integral into life. So We want you to walk down the street in Plaza Midwood in April and not be able to escape it. Like, we want you to just be in it. And not that you have to, like, go and see a show, but that there's art just happening is part of life. And
Well,
we're heading in that direction.
in that direction. So, creative people, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to this show, check the description. You'll find a link to the site or what she's doing. You find a link to her Instagram page, the Boom website, and anything out there which she has done and in the public, which is in the public. You have access to them. And tell us where we can find you so that we can, have some time to gossip.
Okay.
Where can we find you?
Well, like online or in
Online.
life. Like,
What is your
Don't come
zip
stalk
code?
me.
What's your phone number? What is everything? No, we're online.
at Camerin, Camerin Allgood, because Allgood is legit my middle name.
Oh, good.
That's my Instagram, and I'm pretty active on there. And then I share a lot of things on Facebook, and I'm just Camerin Watson on Facebook. But my name is spelled with an I, and so I'm unique and easy to find.
Okay, that sounds good. And the Boom site and her social media handle will be in the description. So let's gossip. At this point, you can talk about any issue. You can compliment. You can criticize. You can whine. You can say, "Wow, why did they do that?" Any global thing, any public, any personal, any. What is
Oh,
this?
goodness.
Yeah.
That's wide open. I mean, I have a lot of things to say about the current political situation, but at the same time,
Papa, let's go.
if you're not, there's some like great quote, right? If you're not angry, you're not paying attention, and
Oh.
and never before has that felt more real than right now, and it like affects how much I can engage because it's so toxic. I feel like, and
How is it toxic? Tell me. From which opponent, or from which side, or both sides, or when you're talking about politics now?
I'm particularly upset about the recent Supreme Court decision, or the recent appointment to the Supreme Court.
Who?
Brett Kavanaugh.
Who is he?
Well, who is he? A liar and a sexual offender who just got appointed to a lifetime appointment on the Supreme Court.
Ooh.
And I
Is it
just
the
don't
be-
understand,
the
like,
beer guy?
huh?
The beer guy?
The beer guy. Well,
The guy
yeah,
who drinks the beer? Who
Yes.
likes beer now?
Yes.
Oh.
he said that was a quote. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think that I'm not gonna agree with the politics of probably any Supreme Court justice that Trump's appoints. But I just feel like you could probably find one that is more upstanding. And I don't understand why we had to rush through the process if there were these allegations. And I mean, I think the sexual harassment allegations is a really big issue right now. And everybody was like, well, there's no evidence. But like, when is there ever evidence? I don't know what the solution to that is. Like, I don't think that people should be prosecuted if they didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, so many of those cases are he said, she said. There's no physical evidence of what happened, and because there's so much shame around it, people don't report immediately, and so any physical evidence that there was doesn't exist anymore by the time someone's built up the courage to report that they're being taken advantage of. And I think that's a huge issue, and I think that where it's going to cause us to reevaluate how men and women interact,
Mm-hmm.
and what is appropriate and what's not appropriate. And I mean, I think I know that I am in a real time in my life of trying to recognize privilege, and I think that men carry a lot more privilege than they recognize, and they don't always recognize the effect that their size has on their relationships with women. Generally, we're smaller than men, and
How?
like physically smaller. That's not always true. It's definitely an experience that I have.
So, lady, I'm like, okay.
But I have a friend who's a guy, and he has been not accused of sexual harassment, but some women have sort of been like, "You've gone too far." And I think that he didn't intentionally do it, but he doesn't recognize that he's a big guy and how that gives him power that he doesn't recognize he has. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So I think we have to just like look at how who we are affects the people around us. You know, personally, in my own life, I've done a lot of work and I continue to be on a path of recognizing what white privilege is and how, as a white woman, I experience the world differently than people with different skin tones. And my family is mixed, and I am being ever more educated in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that men need to take the same journey and understand what privileges they experience that they didn't even know that they were experiencing. And how they're taking advantage of women, and I think they don't even know that they're doing that. I think they're good men making mistakes. And they're bad men now being called on their misactions as well.
That's interesting. And just to even say something a little bit about the politics then, it's crazy when it all gets different perception when it becomes a political stance.
Yes.
And it's sort of now lets that whole calling out people who are doing that lose its power.
Right. I agree.
Yeah. And they should find it should have been brought up earlier before all this happened.
Well, but it's hard. Like this. I think women who have been treated that way.
I mean,
there's a
not
lot
the
of
lady, but in terms of any person who knew that information, who knew this is what he did. I'm not talking about the lady. Maybe the family member knew or something, but anybody who decided to, okay, let's go to public with this, that person should have brought this earlier. Because time and time again, when it gets to a point when someone is trying to hit a certain plateau and they start bringing to the board, okay, this is what the person did, this is what he or she did. It's going to be all because he wants to do that. That's why they're doing this. And if they keep doing that, situation like that will help that whole call out lose its power. And Trump will jump in, oh, this is a very hard time to be a man, blah, blah, blah.
Oh my God.
But, it will give platform for people to, it's another thing, it's another Stormy thing, it's another this thing, But
I think there's a lot more involved with it than that, right? Like, I think that I don't know if she ever named him to her family and friends. It doesn't sound like she was like really vocal about this in advance. So I'm not sure there's a lot of people that knew. I don't know all the details of it. I'm not trying, but I think that in the case of being sexually assaulted, there's a lot of shame around reporting, but I might change my tune if I felt like the person that had acted so wrongly to me was going to end up in a place of such significant power over making decisions about women's bodies.
Then I have to talk.
So then I might set aside my shame or my discomfort or my healing process that I was engaged in, and for the greater good of the country, want to bring this up. Yeah. So I don't think the timing of when she brought it up is as relevant to like it not being true as some people would like to think, or that like it's just a political play. I think I can really understand, like I don't think she was ever planning to come out with it. But when faced with this idea that if she didn't do something, that he was going to rise to this place of power, then she felt like she had a duty to step up. And nobody wants to be
sit there and be mocked and be like, oh, this is what they did to you.
Right? Like that's not worth it. And she's gone through all this therapy, and now she's going to have to go back through more therapy, I'm sure. Be questioned by Congress on your something horrible that happened to you.
It's not fun.
No,
it's not fun unless there's no fun to it. It's just a satisfaction of you putting a stop to something.
Yep. Wow. But then she did. It didn't work.
Oh.
He got confirmed.
Hopefully.
And I just don't understand why we couldn't take the time to deal with it. I don't understand why people felt like in Congress felt like we need to go ahead and confirm. Like, why couldn't we take the time necessary to really deal with this? It's like this big rush. And I think that, you couldn't find someone else.
Yeah.
Well, if I was up for a job and somebody started talking about something bad I did, even if there was no evidence, I imagine that many employers would be like, you know what, we're going to find somebody else.
Hold on,
we're going to find someone else that can do this job, that doesn't have all this baggage.
Didn't they find anybody? Is there nobody
They didn't
else
know. They didn't go
qualified?
back. They didn't go. I mean, they just confirmed him. They didn't go research. They didn't go back and do another search for. I mean, it's a complicated issue.
They probably knew.
No, they just wanted to go ahead and get it confirmed before the midterm elections. I mean,
It's crazy.
that's what's going on. That's what happened. Politics
Politics.
is a big mess. And the fact that we can't talk about it, like people that disagree can't have like civil conversations with it, I think is even more of a problem.
Yeah, I've already made up my mind. You can't tell me anything.
Right. And I mean, and I feel really passionately about things. And so it is sort of hard to talk to people that disagree. But I wish I was better at that. And I maybe like strive to be.
Yeah.
Like I know I'm going to go see my family in a couple weeks for Thanksgiving.
Oh.
And there's some divisions in there. And I don't know what we'll do. Right. Like I don't want to ruin Thanksgiving by talking about this. But at the same time, like if we continue to be silent with the people that we love and care about and know are good people that agree different things than us, then like how can we ever like sort of patch all this back together again? Because I think that's one of the hugest problems is that we're so divided.
Yeah, it's crazy. It all becomes a different tune and dance when it's done to your own.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a total perception when you realize, oh, that's my cousin, that's my sisters, that's my nephew, that's my niece, and like, okay.
But also you like want to keep the peace, right? Like you want to. We want to sit down and eat turkey and have a good time. It's like, okay,
hey, bring it up, make it a fun Thanksgiving.
Yeah. I mean, it's not fun for me to talk about or think about. Like,
it's not a fun thing. It's just something that needs to be addressed for people to understand that some people are not having it the way they are supposed to have it, and some people are having privileges.
Like it's important conversations.
It's an important conversation that we all need to have, because it's a long thing. Anything else you want to gossip about? You want to complain, you want to criticize?
Yeah, I think I gotta go pick up some boys.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
That sounds
good.
Go
spend the rest of my day like running around and playing Power Ranger.
That sounds good. So creative people, and as always, this is your show. Creativity is an Idea podcast, the source of creativity for creative people. And our guest was Camerin Allgood, right?
Camerin Allgood Watson.
Camerin Allgood Watson.
It's all good.
Oh, it's all good, yeah.
It's all good.
Sorry.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. And as always, please review, share, rate us so that we can get more quality guests like Camerin Watson to share her viewpoint so that you can get more value out of the show. And as always, please don't F up. But when you do F up, make sure you F up real good to help others. I can curse because it was a pleasure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.